Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live. I hope you guys are well. Happy Tuesday. Just got through doing a leg day and hill day and swam with fins afterwards. So wide awake, ready to take some questions. But first, we're going to chat about an article I wrote yesterday. Really good one, because I got to thinking. I read this article I wrote about a year ago that I put in the description. Let me see if I can put that in the description here, or the comment section. It's about the 10 best pieces of advice getting to and through selection. And I got to looking at all 10, and I realized that there's one common factor that is by far the most important of any of them. Yes, you can say how bad do you want it and all that stuff, and that's good, but if you look at the number one reason why people either make it or don't make it through selection, it comes down to preparation. Proper preparation that is effective, and it's going to have them be able to crush fitness tests to get accepted into the program. Believe it or not, that's a big part of the attrition rate right there. People can't pass the fitness test to even get to the training. They wind up joining the Navy and delayed entry program and spend all their time trying to pass a fitness test that they can't, or they do barely pass it, and then they end their spec ops dreams and in prep when they can't pass it after boot camp. So that's a big part of the attrition rate. Just getting to the training, believe it or not, is hard for some. Then getting through the training is even harder. That's where all the attrition really occurs, and that is really due to lack of preparing for the grind that is going to be probably some of the hardest training you've ever done, regardless of what training program you are preparing for. Um, Buds, SF training, PJ training, recon, MARSOC, you name it. Any spec ops training. There's some really hard SWAT team trainings out there too that are really tough. BORTAC's one of the toughest ones. HRT's up there. Um, Very tough programs. Not just physically tough, but tactically challenging as well. Can't just be in great shape. You got to know your stuff as well. So anyway, preparation is what it comes down to. How do you know if you're training properly? That's probably the biggest question I get. And to be honest with you, you really don't know until you get there and you're going through the training and you say, "Holy crap, I can do this." Or, "Holy crap, I didn't prepare for any of this." Right? That's usually one of the two items that occur in your brain, depending on just how well or how poorly you prepared. So, so anyway, I wrote an article on the whole thing, and it's not just physically preparing; it is also academically preparing. Because if you don't pass the ASVAB, you're not going to get in. You don't pass certain grade point average for officers, you're not going to get in. And then there's the OAR, and there's a whole bunch of list of tests as well. So there's an academic level of preparation that's involved. There's also a mental toughness and resiliency preparation that's involved. And you only really get that by training hard physically, like training when you don't feel like it and pushing yourself a little bit harder past those perceived limitations. Those are ways to build not only mental toughness and resiliency and durability. Work capacity is also a big part of it, and it's confidence. Confidence is really key. You don't want to be overconfident, but you also don't want to be underconfident. And it's real easy to get um, underconfident um, whenever you show up there and are very intimidated by one, your classmates, two, the instructors. But eventually you get to a point where you're like, what are they going to do? Make me get wet and sandy? Make me do push-ups? It becomes, you should expect to be dropped all the time to do push-ups. You should expect to be wet and sandy every single day. And then if you have a day where you're not wet and sandy, that's a little victory. Just expect it. That way you're not shocked by it. And you're ready for the grind. Let's see. Got a few people in here. You guys got questions? That's great. Send them in. I'm going to show a combat swimmer stroke video. Let me show the one from yesterday. Somebody submitted. Let me turn off my volume because it's distracting. All right. So I'm not sure if this one's a good one or not, to be honest with you. I can't remember. So let me share my screen. There we go. All right. So let's see what we got here. So we have a kickoff. Oh, okay. We're going with fins today. All right. So top arm, bottom arm, kick, 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 kick. I would say this. I think that many kicks is unsustainable in a long swim, but they're really good kicks. I think if you're just starting your swim, it's going to be real easy to do that many kicks. Sorry for the sideways. Yeah, I can't. Let me see. I don't think I can rotate it. But if you notice this kick, it's really good. He's not bicycling his knees. He stays on his side. Got a good streamline while he's kicking. I like that. That's really good. Now, the only thing is, I typically will kick. Let me get it back to where you could see it. I typically kick 1, 2, 3, 4, pull. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so he seems to be really kicking, and I don't think you can sustain that in a very long or fast swim pace. I think it's nice if you're just, warming up, you know, but you're kind of holding your breath a little bit and you're going to need to breathe in more. So I tend to kick 1, 2, 3, 4, pull my arms. 1, 2, 3, 4, pull my arms. So consider that. Maybe even go 3, just to speed it up a little bit with the breathing. Let's see, we got a question here. As a person who is 300 pounds, always rucking, any tips into battling hills on trails? Huh. I tend to do shorter strides going uphill. Makes it a little bit easier. Um, I've seen a couple of different ways people do this. They'll do what's called like a switchback, where they'll kind of zigzag to go up the hill versus like straight up the hill. That's one way. I've seen another one where instead of like constantly bending your knee and squatting up the hill, it's almost like they take a big step and their leg gets straight, so their thigh actually relaxes, and they kind of use their hips to get up the hill. It's kind of hard to explain how they do that. It's part of the switchback process too. I mean, it's hard to go straight up a hill like that. Um, but it does relax the thigh a little bit and it forces you to kind of use your hips a little. So, my answer is shorter strides if you're going to go up the hill. But yes, you're right. At 300 pounds, you're always rucking. I mean, let's figure if you were a 250-pound guy, you'd have a 50-pound backpack on. So take that, as an honest assessment of how much you're working whenever you do these walks, whether they're uphill or flat. So good job. I would say just keep on moving. Morning, Stu. Overly broad question, but do you think combative sports help guys develop a tougher mindset SOF selection? Absolutely. Absolutely. Wrestlers, jujitsu, judo, karate, whatever it is, they are just tough minded people, especially if they're grapplers and, they spar a lot. Boxers, that's another one. It's one on one. You're exhausted and you're still having to throw punches or make moves. And it's really good conditioning. I've always said that if you're a wrestler who knows how to swim, you're probably going to have very little problem at SEAL training. They're just one, they're mentally tough. Two, they're great shape, pound for pound strength is there, and as long as they know how to swim, and that's a big if because a lot of wrestlers don't swim very well. Um, So I would suggest if you do wrestle or you do some kind of martial arts, make sure you're kind of cooling down any of those workouts you do with some kind of swim. If you have like dive school, EOD, SEAL, recon type, selection in your world, PJs. If you're going more Army SF or Rangers, less swimming is needed. But if you're considering uh, SOF force that does a lot of diving, you're going to have to know how to swim and tread and all the pool competency that is required of that. But yes, absolutely. Now, I will say this, I do think that there comes a time in your preparation where you need to perhaps stop doing your hardcore combative sports because unfortunately, it's one of my big reasons why people don't they ruin their spec ops dreams is they get injured. I've had guys, that are doing MMA and they break their fist. I've had guys doing jujitsu and they pop an elbow out of socket or shoulder out of socket, um, hurt their neck. One of them, Now I've also had like triathletes wreck on a bicycle, and need to get a surgery. So it's a wide variety of things that you can do to hurt yourself. And if you're doing it 3, 4 months prior to shipping or a bud state or whatever program you're doing, you can really ruin your chances of getting in, or if you're lucky, seriously delay them another 6 months and you can get back in later. But sometimes you lose your opportunity, especially if you injure yourself to a point where you're disqualified for that service, whether it's you get poked in the eye and now your eye's screwed up and you don't have 20/20 vision anymore. So many things that can go wrong, 3 to 4 months out. If you're doing a combative, you're doing contact sports, or like I said, even triathlons on a bike, road bike, or BMX or anything that's potentially going to get you injured. At some point you need to take that a little seriously and pull back on the chances that are going to get you injured. At least give yourself enough time to, like, if you're going to need a surgery or you're going to need time off of training, that you can actually rebuild yourself prior to shipping. So there's my soapbox on hardcore training outside of hardcore training. Tied to the above, if someone were to train jiu-jitsu or boxing on top of SF specific workout program, what advice would you have? I just told you. Yes, I think I just answered that question. I didn't even read it. So good job, Joe. Let me do another video here. Well, since we did fins on the first one, let's do fins on the second one. And I think I just posted this one with a voiceover critique on TickTock yesterday, but I'll do my own voiceover here. I will say this, kicking off the wall with a big pair of rocket fins is really awkward. Notice you don't get very far. I tend to either use my arms or throw some dolphin kicks in there just to get the momentum going. I personally like this kick. Now, he does this kind of little scissor kick and little flutter kicks in between. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think the big scissor kick is necessarily needed, but I have done that on my strong side and held a glide for a little bit after that kick, only when I'm going with current and open water. So if you're going with the current, it's really an easy swim, and you could throw in a dolphin kick, you could throw in a scissor kick and glide. You just glide and not waste a lot of energy. However, when you're coming back into the current, you can't do that. I mean, you're probably going to go backwards if you try to glide, or you'll stop, depending on the speed of the current. Um, so you got to do a constant floater kick. So my suggestion would be, have a strategy when you do long swims. Anywhere between 2 miles and 5.5 nautical miles, you'll have to do at buds. Um, and it's a long swim, and you're going to need some kind of strategy. You got to change sides every 5 minutes, I would suggest, if you're doing CSS constantly. um, either constant flutter kicks, use your arms more than your legs. A lot of people drag their feet a little bit with smaller kicks and just use your arms to pull. That's a way to save a lot of energy, especially if you're going to be swimming for 3 hours in a 5.5-mile swim. Um, so yeah, I like that. Notice he didn't do any bicycling either, so that was a good swim. So that was good. 2 back-to-back fin workouts, eh? All right, here we go on the topic of open water. How early do you have your guys start swimming in the ocean and bay? How overlooked do you think that is by guys head to buds, and how important is it? Not everybody has the opportunity to swim open water. I will say that I didn't do a whole lot of open water personally prior to um, buds, but I swam a lot with fins in a 50-meter pool, which was fine. I was, you know, top 5 swim pairs, in our class. There are guys faster than me. There's a whole bunch of people that were not. Um, and the key was swimming straight. And really, all you have to do on that is just look up every 5 strokes or so, and make sure you're swimming in the right direction. You just guide on something. So let's say you have a buoy here, but you have a big tree here, or a tower over here, and you're swimming this way, right? So you're swimming to the buoy, right? And you see the big tree. Whoops, see the big tree behind it. All you got to do is look up and see where that tree is, or the tower, or the building. So it's not that hard. Or if you're swimming parallel to a beach, it's not that hard either, because you just stay right behind the breakers, and it's usually a pretty straight line, unless your beach curves. It's usually a pretty straight line from A to B, and then once you get about halfway, it's real easy just to look up and you see the buoy that you're turning around. But when you first get started, you can really zig and zag, because you can't see that buoy very well unless you're on the top of a swell, or you're at the or you found a good guiding point right behind it. And the good news is, where you swim out there at buds, there's like the Coronado kind of curves a little bit, so you have places behind you to be able to swim straight and guide on it. But that's the biggest thing. Really, I would say there's not a whole lot to it compared to swimming in a pool. Um, you may find it even faster because you don't have to do the turnarounds and the awkward kickoffs. So that's the good thing. But I don't. We swim with fins every leg day. So today was a leg day. We swim with fins afterwards. Probably do another leg day on Friday, and we'll swim with fins afterwards. Now we're lucky, we have where we run on Fridays is a beach, and it's Chesapeake Bay. It's about 60 degrees right now, so it's buds temperature, and kind of sucks, especially if you're skinning it for a mile. Um, so you get nice and chilly whenever you're done with that one. Uh, but unfortunately, where we swim too, in the summer, it's like 6 weeks where there's too many jellyfish and you just get stung so much that we can't swim there. So there's some times when we can't swim in it and some times when we can. Um, Usually in the spring and the fall are ideal times. Plus, it's about Bud's water temperature anywhere between 58 and 70 degrees is where we try to swim. When the water is that temperature is when we try to swim. So any colder than that is not necessary. Any warmer than that, unfortunately, where we live brings a lot of jellyfish. All right. Good question. Let's see. Any other questions? Joe, you're the only one with questions today. All right, so let's see. Let me do another share. This is a good one without fins. I don't think I've shown this one. Or if I have, it's been a while since I have. So right off the bat, what do you see? Good streamline off the wall, biceps on the ears, head tucked, one hand on top of the other, elbow straight. That's a good streamline. So I always like that from the top. And then let's see how it looks like his speed off the wall. Does he kick off pretty hard? Yeah, that's pretty fast. And then he's got a little double arm pull, a little dolphin kick. Yeah, it comes up past that yellow marker. This is really good. So we got a top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. So that's good, but notice he's got a double kick. So he's got 2 kicks per stroke. That was very efficient. He doesn't need that first stroke, which usually looks like it's coming at when he does his arm. Like, I don't know why he's doing a double kick there. It's really good, really fast. I mean, you're looking at a 48 second 50, 45. Woo, yeah, 45 second. That was really good. But it's reason why he's so fast is he has a really good streamline. His second kick's not making him faster. It's probably making him slower because if you notice when he kicks like this, right, when he does that, that's just like slowing him down, right? But this is good, really good. I like that. We'll watch it on the way back again, see how he does. Looks like he does a scissor kick on that side, right? And then notice when he comes back this side, he looks like he's doing a breaststroke kick. So he's got a little scissor kick to start it off, and then he goes breaststroke kick. So all I got to do is like get him to quit kicking twice, which it seems like it's more of like an arm pull tied into an arm pull, which is, just a weird habit. A lot of times freestylers have that little kick that goes with an arm pull that it's not hard to break. It's just you got to realize you're doing it. Most people don't even realize they're doing it, but that's good. I mean, that's really fast. Depending on who's grading you on that one, like if I was grading him, I would say you're only supposed to do 1 kick per stroke if you're doing a legal CSS. But in reality, there's no real rule saying you can't kick multiple kicks in between the stroke. So until I see that as a written rule, it's available to you if you want to do it. But the problem is it wastes a lot of energy. Now that little 1 kick is not as bad as a little motorboat and flutter kick, right? That will tire you out. In a 500-yard swim, I've seen guys do 500 kicks, which is exhausting. That's going to affect your run a little bit later as well. Let's see. You guys send some questions if you got them. Let's see. I think I have a video here that is of one that is not good. In fact, I will share that in a minute. I guess no, Joe, you're the only one asking questions, so I appreciate it right now. So keep asking. We can make this really short. I'll show some 4 videos and then sign off if nobody's asking questions. I apologize for all the questions, but how often do you and your guys train kicking off the wall during the CSS? Every time we kick off a wall, we train it. How do you have them manage the urge to breathe? That's just conditioning. I get a lot of guys that, when we're first starting out and we're doing a 500-yard swim, though they start off maybe their first one or two laps with a pull out, but then they do the um, can't do the pull out 300, 400 yards into it. And so they just skip it and they start breathing and stroking more. That's purely conditioning, has nothing to do with anything that you're learning as far as a technique. It is you being not in swimming shape. So I always say, when you're doing that, I say, dude, you're not in swimming shape. So I wrote an article called, Dude, You're Not in Swimming Shape. And how do you get in swimming shape? Read this article. It's really good. So, where can I send a CSS video for review? Most people just go to my Instagram and DM me, or you can send it to Stu at stusmith.com. My Instagram is StuSmith50. Also, my TickTock is StuSmith50. You can see that right here. In fact, it's all CSS Critique page. So if you're wondering how your swim looks, like this guy who I'm about to show you next sent me a video. And I'm like, does your swim look anything like the guys that are doing it well on my CSS Critique page? Because, I mean, just looking at you swim it should be a good indicator of like, wow, I'm not doing that right. Right. But, I had to say, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'll just show you because you'll see it. Tell me if you guys see it. One, it's not the best quality video, but let's check this out. Tell me what you guys see. So he kicks off the wall already. Before he even starts, I see his hands are side by side and his elbows are bent, his head sticking up, right? So it's not very good streamline off the wall from the start. So I can say maybe he's got the timing down, just needs to work on his streamline body position a little better. That's my first critique. Next one, decent double arm pull, starts kicking immediately. It's got a weird glare. By the way, if you send me a video with a weird glare and you can't see yourself kicking, I can't either. So try to find a place that doesn't have a lot of glare in it, like that, maybe that lane line right next to the edge of the pool. So what do you guys see right here? Looks like he's swimming freestyle. Can't do that. This is an underwater recovery stroke. That's why it's called an underwater recovery stroke, because you can't recover out like that. You got to recover your arm over your head underwater, like a breaststroke recovery. This is a freestyle cross stroke recovery, and you would be told by the time you got to the end of the first lane that your stroke is not the CSS and you fail. So I might let you do it again, but you failed this first attempt before you even got one length. Some instructors will let you go ahead and do the whole swim like that and say at the end, nope, you failed. That's a good one too, though. That drives it home pretty well. But take a look at this. So out of water arm recovery, and look at those kicks. And it looks like he's swimming freestyle. Basically, he's kicking like he's doing freestyle and got a freestyle style arm recovery. So that has really very little to do with the CSS. You basically are doing a one arm freestyle. That should be a glide position there versus a motorboating flutter kick. A lot of energy wasted here. Yeah, that's one kick. You should be in that glide position and holding the glide. Not, I mean, that was easily 50, 60 kicks to get 50 yards across the pool. So, did you guys see that? that is not a good swim. I mean, you got to cross the pool. Congrats, but it's not a CSS, and it's not underwater recovery stroke. Let's see. Stu, you left the Navy as a lieutenant, approximately 8 years active duty. Do you ever reflect on whether you would have stayed on active duty 20 plus years? I had a lot of buddies do that, and I admire them to this day that they had the commitment to do 20 plus. In fact, I just had a buddy retire after 34 years. Very impressive. He started at 18 years old, and he is now, what, 53, 54? Very impressive. I did not have that level of commitment, and it really just comes down to that. And it was, I got out before 9/11, so it was a different time. Thought about going back in, but 2001, I had ankle surgery and shoulder injury. I can make up a whole bunch of excuses. Had 2 kids, you know. But yeah, it's a weird time. So, do I reflect on it? I have a really good time doing what I do. I went to the Naval Academy as a instructor my last 2 years in the Navy, and I thoroughly enjoyed being a coach slash instructor more than I did being a SEAL platoon commander and SEAL officer. So that was really part of a driving force for me. I didn't realize I would enjoy it so much, but I did, and been coaching pretty much ever since. So there you go. What was your position at SDV team, and what was your rank? I started there as an ensign. Got my trident by the end of my first, 01 ensign rank, and then stayed there until I was a lieutenant. Almost 5 years, and um, used to drive the DDS, used to drive the SDV navigator, and then ran the DDS and would launch submarines and mass thermal lockouts off the big subs, and it was fun. It was a good mission. If you like scuba diving, you would like SDV teams. If you don't like scuba diving, you will not like SDV teams. You will be underwater a lot. Let's see. And you said we're pursuing command. Yes. So that was it. It was fun. It was a good job. I don't regret it. It's a great job, and I just enjoyed being a coach and instructor more. So, and the overall lack of commitment to do 20 years was also there. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it as something like I could have done it. I could have, but I think it would have been costly personally to me if I'd done that. Let's see. Can you critique a CSS stroke using the breaststroke kick? Yeah, sure. I got a ton of them. Go to my TickTock. That guy just did a breaststroke kick, coming back. It's not much difference, really. Just one kick and hold the glide. I typically have seen this. If you're really good at breaststroke, you should do the breaststroke kick. If you're not good at breaststroke, chances are you're going to be better at scissor kick because you probably grew up running versus swimming by opening and closing your legs sideways like a breaststroke kick. So some of those muscles in the hips and legs may not be as developed as others. So a lot of non-swimming athletes are better at scissor kick, me included, and a lot of swimming athletes, water polo, are also better at breaststroke kick, and it's very powerful. But you can't use breaststroke kick with a pair of scuba fins on. So you got to learn both if you're going to try breaststroke without fins. How do you engage your core more while swimming? My legs seem to drag. Um, that's a good question. I tend to start at the head position versus trying to flex anything. I mean, I it's so subconscious that I don't even realize I'm doing it. So therefore, it's really hard for me to explain. I'm sure if you ask that question on YouTube, you could probably find somebody with a video showing you how to do it. I don't know how to explain it, to be honest with you. What I do is if my head or anybody's head is popping up, your body tends to act like a seesaw with right here, your core being in the middle. So if your core is kind of lax, you can really, you know, be at an angle. So you got to kind of just stay straight, right? Not much difference than kind of bracing yourself when you're about to do a deadlift, right? You just kind of have that stronger core brace. Um, or when you're rucking, when you're rucking and running, you're kind of embracing that core a little bit to just to be a little more stable there and not hurt your back. So for me, when I see people popping their head up, usually what happens is they're swimming like this now, right? Their head pops up for you. So focus on your head down, or at least flat, and it tends to bring you a little more parallel to the surface. So start there with your head. Fix your head on how you breathe. Like when you breathe, you should be breathing with half of your face still in the water, right? You shouldn't be breathing like this with your whole head coming out like you're doing breaststroke. You should be breathing like you're doing freestyle. So if you can keep that bottom ear in the water the whole time, chances are your feet won't drag. Now, if your feet are dragging and your core's weak, I guess I just don't know how to explain how to do that properly. Maybe I'll go watch a video after this because some of these questions intrigue me. Like I don't know how to explain that, so I'm going to go look out how to explain it. Like question yesterday, the guy asked, "Does Air Force Special Warfare do boat training?" And so let me share this with you. This you'll laugh at this. So you know what I did? I went on Google and I asked Google, does Air Force Special Warfare do boat training? And look who you see there. Bunch of Air Force Special Warfare guys doing boat trading. So there you have it. There's the answer. Um, and I emailed that to him, the guy who asked that question. But in the big picture, you're going to have some load bearing to do. You should be prepared for load bearing, regardless, whether that's rucking, boats, logs, equipment, doesn't matter. You should have a strong core, strong little strength foundation so you can actually handle some of the core stability and durability of those type of activities. So hope that answers your question. I just have to say I will look into that and see if I can find an answer today. But that's a good question. I mean, that's worthy of an article if I can find a good explanation and maybe even a video to tag in it. Um, in fact, you know what? Nobody's asking questions. Let's see what the Google machine says. Core engaged during swimming help. Let's see what how to use your core more effectively. The science of swimming. Look at there. I'm just going to share this and you guys can. I'm not sure if it's any good, but I mean that's what happens when you use the Google machine. Sometimes you find something. I'm not sure if that's coming out or not. If you can see that, I just did a Google search. Let me see if I can find the link here. I just gave you the whole Google search link. Let's see. Copy the actual link, put it back in here. Boom. Look at there. YouTube. YouTube's probably a bigger search engine than Google. I would suggest using it more often because you can definitely find some good videos, find good music, find just about anything on here. I tell you what, I've saved so much money using YouTube videos. You know, replaced brakes in my car, replaced the air conditioning unit. Just somebody showed me how to my riding lawnmower. I just pretty much rebuilt my riding lawnmower with YouTube videos. So take advantage. Somebody's got the knowledge out there. Ask the machine, see what happens. What commonalities do you see on solid kick glides that cover a good amount of ground? I would say first, a perfect streamlined body position because it doesn't matter how strong your kick is. If you don't have a good streamlined body position, you know, biceps on your ears and hands on top of the other, right? I usually use this thumb to kind of grab that hand, lock out my arms, and and just hold a really good tight body position, tight recovery, right? After you kick, keep those arms tight to you, over your head, straight. That is key to gliding far after you kick. And I have seen people with weak kicks, believe it or not, have a super glide because of their streamlined body position. I've seen people with very strong kicks not glide that well because they're out here like this and they recover, all loose out here, right? They're gliding like this, right? they, they don't look like a torpedo. You have to look like a torpedo if you want to cover ground, whether that is off the wall and you're kicking, or when you kick and you recover your arms over your head into the glide position. I would say that's probably number one commonality. Number two would be, a powerful scissor kick or a powerful breaststroke kick. Getting better at breaststroke kick is a little awkward for non-swimming athletes. Getting better at scissor kicks a lot easier because it looks like you're running. So I like to do like jumping lunges, like get in the lunge position and then jump and land, with my feet together and kind of hold the glide. So what I literally do is I get in this glide position here, do a lunge and jump, and I stand up straight like a pencil with my feet together and my hands over my head to practice my scissor kick power. You can add weight if you want to do that too. But typically, to fix your fins or to fix your swim, to fix your kick of your swim, practice scissor kicking with a pair of fins on because that will make your scissor kick more powerful. There you go. Hope that helps. Good question. Any others? Because I don't have any more videos to show you. I do have a um, new thing I was working on, um, and really all I did was change a few things in this. This is my new Air Force Special Warfare cover. I don't know if you remember; it used to be called Air Force Special Ops, and it was like PJ CCT workout. Just changed the cover, same pictures. Now it's crushed the IFT OFT instead of the pass test because there's no more pass test. They call it the initial fitness test and the operator fitness test. And I added 4 more weeks into the program to make it more of an operator fitness test, which has deadlifts and weighted pull-ups, a run, a ruck, a swim. This is a really good one. This is the IFT is legit. It's basically the PST of the Navy, just in different order. So you're going to start off with I think it's pull ups, sit ups, push ups, mile-and-a-half run. Then you do the 2 25-meter underwater swims. Then you do the 500-meter swim. And yeah, it's a good little challenge. The IFT. And you can Google what the OFT is. It's out there. In fact, I wrote an article on it out there too, but thought I'd change the cover since they changed the title of the test, which I have to say, I have changed that Air Force Special Warfare program probably about 5 times in 5 years because of so many changes that has been going on in Air Force Special Warfare community, whether it's from, the IFT changing from the past test, no, different standards of those tests have changed a couple of times. They now have a Air Force Special Warfare Prep School that they added. They added the OFT, which is somewhere done during the pipeline process. Um, but no, it's a good course. Good course. I would seriously, if you're considering some form of um, special ops that has swimming um, and diving in it and jumping, consider that one. It's a good one. They've done a lot of good with their programming, kind of taking the best practices of Army SF and Navy SEAL and recon and just kind of put it all in a new package that is Air Force Special Warfare. So I've liked what they have done. I have alopecia, immune system disorder that only affect hair. Yes, I'm familiar with alopecia. Essentially, I have no hair, but I'm perfectly healthy. I don't think so. I've seen people. I mean, you need to look into that, but we had people at the Naval Academy that went on to do various jobs in the military with alopecia. I think that is definitely a waiverable process. I don't think anybody cares you don't have hair. Um, but, double check that. Don't take my word for it. Uh, what 1.5 mile run time would you estimate the average SEAL runs? And what can I do today? Well, my numbers have been all over the place in the last 30 years. Um, I would say when I first started this journey, when I was a powerlifting football player, I got about a 10:30 mile and a half. I got that down to about a 8:15 when I was a candidate. Stayed there for probably a decade, 8:15, 8:30, until I was probably mid 30s. And then slowly getting older and slower. I'd say now at 53, I'd say in my 40s, I was somewhere in the 9:30, 10-minute range. I'd say right now, I can hit a 7-minute mile pretty regularly. Um, so around a 10:30 again. So it's taken me about 30 years to get back to my slower running, but I'm pretty happy with in the 7-minute mile range. I'm not trying to run 6-minute miles um, anymore unless I can lose about 10 more pounds, and then I'll try that. But right now at about 205, it's just not fun running that fast. Um, so if I can get down to 195, maybe 190 like I was in college, then I'll play around with faster run times. So, but now that's going to require a lot of dieting, which I don't like to do, to be honest with you. I like to work out hard so I can eat. Um, so let's go. Let's see. Tom, reserve police officer, 26 years, watched your TFRs on police fire, inspired to try to get my department to embrace fitness. Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's very wise. You know, we all have levels of fitness in the PD, and I think um, some could use some help, encouragement, advice. Yeah, that's a tough one because Nobody wants to be the guy saying, you need to work out because you're overweight and you're going to hurt yourself and unhealthy. I would suggest this, as people are getting older in the profession of being a police officer, that is when health starts to become an issue. And, little things like you let go for a decade or two and you now have diabetes, then that's a hard one to shake. So I would start off with like health concerns. In fact, I wrote an article called Health Screening 101. And if you Google like Health Screening 101 Stu Smith, it's a 3-part article I did on military.com. And it's really kind of a neat series. I did this with a couple of doctors, and they're kind of big into the low carb process for some people, and police officers and firefighters were good candidates for that, especially if they're pre-diabetic, just reducing the carbohydrates. And it makes sense. People saw a lot of progress with that kind of diet, and and then workout program to help just build establish some habits that they need to create for themselves. That's the two places I would start. I would treat it like a health situation, and then just build good habits somehow. Like even if it's 30 minutes spread throughout the day in a 10-minute walk after every meal, that's a good start. And then that can turn into a 30-minute walk, at the end of every day or at the beginning of every day. And after that, you can start evolving into biking or jogging, and you're losing some weight, you see some results, you feel like doing calisthenics, and then that evolves into weight. So my suggestion is start off slow, baby steps, and let it evolve. Don't make them go to the weight room on day one and start powerlifting. I mean, that's fine if they like to powerlift, but chances are they need something that is an easy time placement in their day that they focus on 30 minutes of accumulated or one section of training a day, and make it a habit. Give them a month or two before you throw anything new at them. Just they've established a new habit of training, and then that habit from there can really grow into so many other areas versus just just giving them a workout plan that they don't do. Is it okay to do the CSS with small fins instead of scuba fins just to get in shape to get used? Absolutely. I do that. I use a brand called Sporty. They cost like 15 bucks. You can go to swimoutlet.com and do a search on swim fins. Um, and they're great. They're really good. They're very pliable, but they work the ankles a little bit. They will test some of that ankle mobility. I've had people get sore ankles even with these on because they're that stiff in ankles. So had they put on big scuba fins first, they would have lasted about 100 yards versus being able to swim maybe 1,000 with them before your ankles really start feeling the fatigue of hyper flexing or hyper extending. Um, so there you go. That's what I would do, and give yourself some time. I personally, I don't do a whole lot of scuba fin swimming anymore, and I just use my slip-on fins. One, I'm not preparing for buds, but I like to keep my ankles mobile, and those fins are a good way to do that without a lot of extra stress on the joints. All right, so we moved along pretty well with this little session here. Um, I probably have time for maybe another question. If you got it, send it. Um, I will say that I'll start the closing section right now. So StuSmithFitness.com. If you're looking for programming, use the Compete20 code, save 20%. Um, you know, that's a good one. That'll save you a couple bucks every program you purchase, and a lot of money if you buy online coaching for sure. Also, don't forget, if you're looking for only CSS stuff, yeah, you can Google it or search it on YouTube, and you'll see 100 old videos of me coaching the combat swimmer stroke. But the voiceover application that's available on TickTock is very helpful with me being able to coach and critique people's submitted videos and just post them up there real easy. So got over 100 over there now on TikTok. And if you don't like the app, you can just go to the website, TickTock.com/StuSmith50. I think you got to put the ad in there. Yeah. So this is my TikTok address. Put that in here. Comment section. So check that out. You can do it online with your desktop or laptop computer, or you're on your phone too, I guess. You don't necessarily need the app if you're worried about Chinese apps. What part of buds did you find to be the most difficult? First phase, by far. It was just a big grind. The other two were actually fun training because you were able to learn how to scuba dive, and you had a lot of classes, and you're learning how to shoot and move and do demolitions and learn about weapons, and do land nav. That had some class time in it, and it wasn't always a physical grind. Whereas first phase, very little class time. All there was you running with a boat, a log, soft sand, wet and sandy all the time, and then of course all your other fitness tests that you had to take every week. First phase by far. Hell week, absolutely toughest part of the process. Okay, let's see here. Looks like there's one more question. This is the last question. And if I miss any of your questions, you can just email me, stu@stusmith.com. Happy to assist and answer that question one-on-one. Real briefly, would you talk about what you know of the EOD pipeline and the difference in preparation for buds in the EOD program? You know what? I tend to use the same workouts for folks that are going EOD that are also going SEAL. However, I will probably run a little less with them and swim and tread more, because that dive school prep and dive school that they have to go through is really swim and treading focused. You're going to do a lot of PT as well. So a lot of calisthenics on the pool deck, a lot of swimming. And, so that is something you do 5-6 days a week. You're going to be in the pool at least that many days a week, if not 2 a days in the pool, when you're going through dive school. So be used to getting wet, be used to swimming, be used to treading underwaters. Um, my suggestion, for everybody is, have a civilian scuba qualification while you're training, because you're going to be breathing underwater with scuba gear. Not a bad idea to have some experience doing that. You'll just be smarter for it if you do. So there you go. That's what I tend to do. And my buddy who just retired, I told you about, after 34 years, was the EOD Admiral. So he is now since retired, and we're going to have a big party this month. Look forward to that. So there you go. All right, folks. I am done. Been 1 hour almost exactly. Don't forget, StuSmithFitness.com. Got a ton of articles over there, books, ebooks, coaching programs, got a membership program even where People sign up and they get the workouts that we do every day here locally, and it's not a whole lot of money, but it's you get our videos, you get our articles all in one display every week, but then you also have access to probably almost 5 years now of workouts where you can just pull them, take a picture of them, save them for later, do what you want with them. But yeah, there you go. All right, folks. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next week. And if you guys got questions, send me an email. Always happy to answer them. We'll see you later.